live. I'll call the meeting to order for Thursday, July 19th. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to add something to the agenda, and that's tax ordinances. There's a few tax ordinances that we have to attend to, and I just want to call it to your attention and discuss them a little bit. So we could add that to the agenda. We could put it under new business. We could do it at 10G. Is there anything else to add to the agenda? Any changes? So I move that we approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is public participation. Is there any public participation? Sarah.
Sarah Muska, 25 Maple Avenue. I did read this last night at the Board of Finance meeting in my board member comments, but since the video wasn't working, I'm going to recite it again. I'd like to take a moment to reflect on some of the unprofessional and disrespectful remarks made by a few members serving on our Board of Selectmen. First, I received a letter from Selectman Andy Hoffman at my home address back in February. I publicly brought this up at a Board of Selectmen meeting in public participation on February 15th. The tone of this letter was intimidating and belittling. I have thick skin, and in no way did this letter affect my task on this board, as I have and will continue to do what I feel is in the best interest of the constituents of our great town. However, nothing was ever done about this matter. An apology was never issued to me. It was just swept under the rug as if it never occurred. But what is most concerning to me is to see the fellow members of my community experiencing this same behavior, being bullied and disrespected by selectmen. Like Jim Richards in the Board of Selectmen meeting on June 21st, when he was applying as an alternate on the Economic Development Commission. The interaction with Selectman Hoffman and Mr. Richards was inappropriate. Selectman Hoffman made it personal, and that back and forth communication should have been put to a halt immediately. Lastly, something that has been on my mind for the past few weeks was the way Selectman Charlie Szymanski engaged Joe Sauerhofer at that same meeting on June 21st. Insinuating that Mr. Sauerhofer is a liar and berating him in a public forum is completely unacceptable, especially since after reviewing the minutes and video, Mr. Sauerhofer had not said what he was being accused of. The bottom line is, being an elected official is an honor. To serve your community means you respect the constituents, employees, and other officials of this town. Whether we disagree or not, we should still be held to a standard of treating each other with respect. I feel that this conduct needs to be addressed soon, as this behavior does not shed a good light on the town of East Windsor. Since I seem to be getting nowhere with this board, I have discussed this with my chairman on the Board of Finance, and we are working on where we will go from here. Also, after reviewing the minutes from the Board of Selectmen meeting on June 7th, I find it inappropriate for the recording secretary to be interjecting feelings and opinions. The minutes state, quote, Ms. Muska was angry at the letter written by Building Inspector Stanley, which he made available to the public. The letter is also posted on the bulletin board. Ms. Muska was angry At building official Stanley's faulting the Board of Finance was not approving his request funding for additional help for the building department, end quote. To repeatedly state I was angry is an interpretation, and I asked for going forward that just verbiage is recorded. Lastly, why is the discussion of the soccer field's bathrooms on tonight's agenda? This was already voted in on a town meeting and was passed by the taxpayers, so why are we reviewing it again? Thank you for your time.
I have to say I agree with you. I think it's good to treat people with respect, and I think it's good to respect town employees. They're very valuable to us.
Thank you.
Further public participation. Yes.
Kathy Simonelli, 71 Full Street. I happened to catch by chance last night that the CIP committee is on your agenda tonight, and I just was concerned because no one on the CIP committee was noticed that our committee would be on the agenda, and I think it would be appropriate.
It is on the agenda.
Huh?
I believe, yeah.
It is on the agenda.
It is.
But none of us were notified that it would be on the agenda. So,
Okay.
I mean, unless I happen, because the agendas typically only come out 2 days before, so unless I happen to look at it in that very short window of time, I would not have known, certainly might not have been able to make arrangements to be here. I think when people are going to be on your agenda or committees are going to be on your agenda, I would ask that you guys make the effort to reach out and let people know so that they can be here to participate in that and understand what's going on.
I apologize for that. I think if you listen, you'll see that it's really not something for you to participate in, which you're certainly welcome to.
But it certainly will affect the committee, I assume, so it would be good for us to hear that firsthand.
Okay, I agree with you. More public participation. Robert.
Bob Leach, 39 Church Street. I'm a member of Scout Hall Committee, and when the Board of Selectmen held a discussion on June 21st about the possibility of building public restrooms to be available at the Abbey Road soccer fields, one of the Select Board members made mention of using the bathrooms at Scout Hall. The remarks the member made piqued my interest, since I'm quite familiar with everything at Scout Hall and also a committee member there. I'm also quite certain the Scout Hall Committee has no intentions of allowing the public use of restrooms there in that facility that the committee worked so hard to build. The Select Board member said, and I quote, "Mrs. Masters, who is a trustee of Scout Hall, has said that she's open to allowing the use of the restrooms while the soccer games are going on." End quote. That statement is completely false. I spoke with Nancy Masters last Saturday at our meeting about this, and she told me that outside of niceties at church, she's never had a discussion with the selectmen, let alone discussions about restrooms at Scout Hall. I asked her if I could quote her on that. She said I certainly could. So I'm kind of curious as to why somebody would mention that. That's not.
I'll talk to Nancy Masters and see what the problem is.
Sure. We meet 7:30 a.m. every Saturday.
Thank you. More public participation. Okay, hearing none. I would entertain a motion to approve the regular minutes for July 5th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Communication. Is there any communication?
Assessors. You have assessors on there?
I do. I do have communications, and there's a memo from the assessor on there, and I do have copies of it on the table. And I'll read I think it's interesting, I'll read what's going on in the assessor's department. It says, the assessor's office has finalized all elderly and disabled tax relief applications. The payer copies have been returned to them with information showing the new mill rate and the amount of credit they will see on their tax bills. The state mandated reports for the program have been filed with OPM. we have received 7 court appeals. One is from Walmart based on reevaluation assessment. We are scheduled for a pre-trial with them on a previous case, August 3rd. One is from SJK Properties, whom we reached a stipulated agreement with on the same properties a few months ago, and they are appealing again. Tax bills have been mailed, and we are addressing issues stemming from the bills. Most are prorated motor vehicles that have been disposed of in some way. However, a personal property account in the name of Manchester Methane had to be adjusted to allow an exemption in the amount of $777,500 assessment value, equal to a $26,357.26 tax dollars that will be not collected. And I'll just say about that, what that was is they had some equipment there for pollution control, and the state requires that that be tax exempt. So we were not aware of that when the grand list was made in October. So when they filled out the paperwork, we had to honor their request. And finally, it says, we're starting inspections of real estate that have taken out various building permits, as well as field inspections for new businesses for the personal property grand list. Various changes to our records have been made based on subdivision and survey maps that have been filed, and the land records and ownership records are current. So that's the communication. Any questions? Okay. Now moving on to board and commission resignations and appointments. I move to appoint Joe Sauerhofer to the Building Commission as a regular member with a term expiring August 1st, 2024.
Second. For the longest term I've ever seen.
Six years, I believe.
We're going to put you in the U.S. Senate, Joe.
It's true. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I move to appoint Barbara Pantano to the Ethics Commission for a term expiring January 24th, 2020.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to unfinished business, the 250th anniversary.
All right, so last Sunday we had our Sunday Fun Day free swim event at the Res. Unfortunately, no selectmen were able to show up. I didn't see any of you at least. But we had about 800 people show up throughout the day, which was great. The event started at 11, I think it was. And people were there when we were setting up, and they were in the water because it was so hot. The lifeguards were ready, and we had the ice cream was sponsored by Windsor Federal Savings Bank. They lasted until about 2:30, which was longer than we thought, but they did a great job. So thank you to everybody who was able to help us. And then our next event is actually just Heritage Day, so that's exciting.
I bet it is.
We're almost there. We will still be at the 2 other events that are happening. We have August 4th is East Windsor Day at the Trolley Museum. And I believe there's a discount for East Windsor residents and seniors and students as well. And that's from 10 to 4 all day on August the 4th. And we will have a table there as well. And then August 11th is the Historical Society Ice Cream Social, 3rd annual, I want to say it is, but don't
Oh, it's more than that.
It is?
They've been doing it for a while.
All right, well, it's their annual ice cream social, and that is from 12 to noon on August 11th, Saturday,
Where is that?
at the Historical Society. And we will also have a table there, so those are the last 2 events we'll have a table at, and then it's just Heritage Day. And then burying the time capsule on the 23rd. So we're still getting final details together of the last 2 events that we have. But
Could you talk a little more about the parade and the
yeah, where people are
22nd?
still sending in their forms, so if you have not sent in a form yet to be have a parade afloat any walkers, Republican Town Committee, I need to ask you anyway, so if you want to have a float, let us know.
We will.
Okay, and then anybody else from any other committee or just a single person?
Have the Boy Scouts responded to you?
I don't believe I have a Boy Scout one yet. I have a stack at home that I have not gone through completely yet, so I can let you know.
I'm sure they got it too. So.
But I did hear rumors that there are starting to be people making floats from villages, so if anybody wants to do a competing villages, we are going to have parade awards as well, so make a float and you got to get an award for best float for one of our categories. We're having 6 categories for the parade for winners. So we'll have 6 awards for that.
Is that on the website, the categories?
6?
No, because they're not decided yet.
Oh, okay.
5 villages plus the
Townwide?
what?
So what are the, so 5 villages plus what?
Plus the Grand Marshal
Oh, okay.
pick.
The overall pick.
Yeah, the overall pick. So we're gonna have 6 awards total, and there's also going to be a horseshoe tournament that day. I don't know exactly who is putting that on. Someone is like putting that on for us for the day. But you can sign up online. It's on Facebook as an event, so make sure you join and go see that. And there will be fireworks at night. We're still working on getting a couple more sponsors for that, and to reach the goal of 10,000. And then we have the burying of the time capsule on the next day. So
Bingo, don't forget bingo.
and bingo from the Broadbrook Fire Department. They're going to set up everything like they used to at the carnivals, and they're going to have bingo at the Heritage Day for us. So.
So this is all, so when's, do you have any idea of the time frame? Like when?
So the parade is going to leave from the res at 2:50 p.m. and make their way down Main Street to go towards the Harrington property, which is the corner of Main Street and 140. So I don't know how long the parade's going to be because we're still waiting to get everybody's response back on who's in the parade, but assuming probably 45 minutes to an hour for the parade, maybe longer depending on how many more we can get. So then after that, from 4 on, we're going to have, I believe, 5 food vendors, 5 food trucks coming that day. We're going to have vendor tables, so if anybody wants
Is that at the res?
Nope, everything's at the Harrington property. Yeah,
Okay.
we're leaving from the res.
Yeah.
So everything's at the Harrington property. We have the 5 food trucks. We're going to have vendor spots. So if anybody wants a vendor table if the town wants one, or if any organization in town or anything, just send us a form. That is not online yet because I have an issue getting it on there, but send me an email and I can get that to you personally. We're going to have a bounce house for the kids. We're working on getting some henna and tattoo artists for the kids. We have Kenny the Clown coming. We have Shriners going to be in the parade. We have horses in the parade from Harrington Stables, and we're trying to, we're working on getting a sponsor for the Huckleberry, which was the horse from the reenactment. He's going to come ride for that day. And there's probably something else that I'm missing, but we have a lot going on.
And where do you view the fireworks from?
Right on the Harrington property. They're going to be launched in the far back corner. So you'll see them from the parking lot and from there, and then probably from other places around town too. So.
What was the parade last time on Route 5?
She was.
For the bicentennial, I have no idea, but I believe it was.
So are you going to publicize the parade route so people know like where to set up chairs? Because
Yes. Yeah. We're still working
Shuttle
on that.
buses, don't forget the shuttle buses.
Yes, we are going to have a shuttle bus going around from the res on the Highland side, coming through the res, going down, stopping in this area for the school parking lot, the town hall parking lot, and the church parking lot, and then at the middle school, and then most likely they'll have a stop too at the actual Harrington property. But most people are going to end up parking at the middle school. So that's the shuttle route. So Smith Bus is going to work with us on that, and they gave us a pretty good quote. So.
Very good.
good
I
job.
think that's it.
Could I ask where the horseshoe tournament's going to be?
Right at Harrington property. So where the people usually park on that to the right of the trees, we're going to put it right there. So we're going to determine the popularity on Facebook if we have 2 setups or just 1. So we got to figure it out still based on the interest that we get.
I was kind of hoping it might be at Scout Hall with those nice brand new Eagle Scout project.
Well, being that that's not where the event is, that's not going to work. But
Practice.
I think a horseshoe tournament, you might have to I'm not sure the choice is going to be between 1 or 2 pits.
Yeah, right.
That could be attractive.
Yeah, people have liked it so far, and we're also gonna have other yard games as well. We had cornhole at the Sunday Fun Day, which a lot of people were using. We had ladder ball, we had Twister, we had Yahtzee. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on, so it's going good. Thank you.
Okay, good job.
Okay, the casino. Anybody have anything on the casino?
In my, in class, the city council president from the city of Springfield is a student as well. And just as, you know, now that Rebecca's about to have some free time on her hands, the city of Springfield is actually planning on doing a whole parade and a commemorative event around the opening of MGM on August 24th. So that could be her next big project, is to get ready for when we open.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever that is.
That's true.
I mean, it should be more than just a ribbon cutting. And I think looking at what Springfield is doing next month might be a good place to kind of glean some ideas. Obviously, there's a question of scale, but certainly more than a ribbon cutting and a press release would be appropriate.
Okay. The MGM will want to participate in that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Bob, do you know if the other, if the Pier Indian Affairs has signed off on the other compact?
I don't believe they have, and I don't know if they have or not.
Is there a hole up there, or is there something that's going to?
I haven't asked. And I just wanted to get a feel for what each individual Board of Selectmen member thinks. And what the question is, that casino impact ordinance that we're going to set up, have a casino impact fund. That's where the $3 million a year would go. Do you want to put that on the ballot in November? Would you want to have it as part of a referendum on the ballot, or not? So let's, Charlie, what do you think?
I would say so.
I would say so.
Okay, Andy?
Yes.
And Steve? Okay, well, then I'll work toward that. I'll talk to the registrar of voters and the town clerk and see if we can work out some of the details.
Good idea.
Okay. Next, new business.
So, I'm sorry, hold on. I might not have understood that. Can you repeat the premise one more time?
Okay, yeah. On November, we're going to have elections.
Yes.
And on the ballot, we'd also have this.
What would the question be?
The question would be the ordinance itself. And I haven't worked out. The question would be, and I don't know, can't say the exact question. It would be something along the lines of, do you approve the following ordinance? And read the ordinance, something like that. I'll have to check, like I said, with the town clerk and see what, and perhaps legal to see what a valid statement would be to accept this or reject this ordinance.
And the ordinance is to do what?
The ordinance is the ordinance that we agreed on.
Right, which is to refresh me on what it entails.
Yeah, I'll read it to you. I got it here.
I don't need you, it's a page long, just give me the bullet points.
Create a non-lapsing revolving fund outside the general fund. Put the $3 million impact payments into that fund. To use the monies in the casino impact fund, including the interest earned thereon, to ensure this casino has a positive impact on the town of East Windsor, ensure that the issues associated with the casino are dealt with in a manner that supports its operation, the growth of East Windsor, quality of life, infrastructure, and public services.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So Bob, there was a sentence missing from there.
Well, actually, no, I didn't read the last sentence. It says, the last sentence right here says, I summarized it. I left out some parts, and it says the monies will be reviewed annually, and the money deemed in excess shall be transferred to the general fund for the purpose of stabilizing taxes.
What happened to the line in there that said for the betterment of the people?
For the quality of life, infrastructure and public services, quality of life is really betterment of the people.
It does say for betterment of people?
No, it says,
No, but we did have that sentence. It said
well,
for the
we can
betterment of the
review this.
people.
We approved, this is, I'll double check, but this is the ordinance I thought we approved, and it should be in the minutes from that meeting. But, and what did you, what are you looking for?
You know, for the better, to be used for the betterment of the people, which means anything, pretty much.
Betterment of the people.
Parks, whatever, can be used for the people of East Windsor.
Okay.
I mean, we did say that, that was mentioned, for the betterment of the people.
Yeah, probably should just go back and check what was voted on.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Because you had a hard time getting me to agree to that,
No,
once that was put in there.
We did have that.
Okay. Further discussion? New business, Broadbrook Mill remediation. So, Len, do you want to talk to that?
Could you like skip over that until our chairman gets here?
Oh, sure.
Jessica?
I think we can. I would entertain a motion to postpone this agenda item until the chairman gets here. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 10B, discussion of dispatchers and supervisors collective bargaining negotiating team. The town's going to start negotiating with the supervisors union and the dispatchers union for collective bargaining, and
Separately.
separately. Different places, different times. And I'll be a member of each team. I've asked volunteers from the Board of Finance. For the dispatchers, I've talked to the chairman of the Police Commission, but also for both negotiations, it would be good to have a member, an additional member from the Board of Selection. So if any member would like to join either of those negotiation teams, either tell me now or tell me later.
I'll do that.
You want to do both or just one?
Yeah.
Do both?
Yeah, since, you know, having been on the police one, that how that process works is helpful to get us along a little further quicker.
Okay, good.
Unless you guys want to do it.
All right. Further discussion on the dispatchers and supervisors bargaining. All right. Going on to 10C, discussion on the EDC and the website. And actually, I'll put something up on the. Hey, could you turn on the video or the computer? Just push the button on the top there. Perfect. Talk among yourselves. I'll start. We had a meeting Monday with the EDC. There was quite a few people here. All the members, I believe, were here. Any were missing it? Oh, the chairman, Eric Moffett, wasn't here. They had 2 people from CERC, Connecticut Economic Resource Center, I believe it's called, and they're helping us design the EDC portion of the website. It'll be a sub-site, but it'll have its own URL.
In addition to that, Bob, there was Tom from the virtual towns and schools.
Right.
People were building the website.
Yeah, this, oh well, I'll put this up. Okay, so that's going to be our front page of our website. And this, as Andy pointed out, it's down here. Yeah, virtual towns and school website. So that's the builder of the website. They're the builders of our current website too. So this new code they're developing is for all platforms, like a cell phone. It'll adjust the pages so they fit on the cell phone. It kind of lines them up. And then this, it's just the beginning. This is the first mock-up we had, and it's just something to start with. This, in a sense, will be our the beginning, and it's just a blank canvas. It's just something to start with. But you click on these things: commercial real estate development process, East Windsor Advantage, and it would be a way when people come into our website, they can also click to here, or you could just type in business or East Windsor or economic development in East Windsor, bring you right up to this page, and you'll have other things from that. So we just started working on this. In the next week or so, we should finish up the home page. And I've left a questionnaire on there. If anybody wants to fill out the questionnaire, they asked us to do that, to give them some idea of what they wanted. And they'll work with us. They're going to make prototypes. So we'll be able to work with it. But if anybody has any suggestions, now's the time to do it for our home page. Once we tell them, once we tell them that we like the home page and to start building it, then they're going to take all the data that's on our current website and move it to this new website. And that'll take 2 or 3 months. So really, we're talking in the mid-fall range to have this up and going. And before we put it up, they're going to have like a prototype so we can play with it to make sure it's working okay, so we don't have a big disaster. And then once we're satisfied with it, we'll do away with our current one. We'll go up with a new one. So
We also asked them if they could embed videos, and they said they could.
yes,
Which will make it, I think, a much more interesting web page. We'll be able to provide information, including audio, that will explain what we're all about here in East Windsor. The beta testing, Bob, will take how long?
well, I'm not sure. Once they load all the data on, probably we'll test it and we'll see. So it's been a couple of weeks. Any questions, anybody, any suggestions or thoughts?
So these pictures that are in here, this isn't final?
That's not a final at all. What you're holding up is the EDC. This was the first, this is something they gave us by listening to us. And so
Okay.
we're going to make something like this, but we have to fill in the content. In your package, there was actually a map of what the website might entail, but we have to work on it, because this economic development website hasn't been even thought about. I mean, we're just starting to think about it. It doesn't exist. This other one, they're just reformatting it. Most of the information's already there, but giving us more abilities.
Okay, good.
Okay, now that I see the chairman there, I would move we take up the Broadbrook Mill remediation. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Jessica and
Hello.
How you doing?
Thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate that.
thank Lenny.
So to give you guys an idea of where we're at currently and what's happening in the process and what we're asking for tonight. So at this point, United Technologies has completed their final plan. They've submitted that final plan.
Too deep?
Too deep. It's the final plan. Mostly final plan. There's lots of final plans we've learned. This is the mostly final plan. So we have the document. It's a big document. It's a binder full of data, and there's a ton of data about the toxins that are on the property, the levels of those toxins that they've been testing, the different carcinogens, the different cancer-causing agents that they want to put mostly a cap over most of the property, and then dig up some of the hotspot area, so to speak.
Volatile chemicals.
Volatile chemicals, where the levels are the highest, where the contamination is the most prominent, to dig it up out of the ground in those spots, keep it on the property, put it in a consolidation area behind the Congregational Church. So not remove it, but keep it, and then put an impermeable barrier over it. The next part in their process would be to have a public meeting where folks can offer comment.
In the next 3 to 4 months?
Yes, probably sooner. That meeting will allow them to talk about the plan. DEEP can take any comments that people offer and consider them. After that meeting takes place, it'll be the Section 106 meeting, which is specific to the historic buildings on site. We know at this point, from what they've told us, their plan is to really demolish the buildings that are there, to take down the buildings that are in the National Historic Register. So that meeting would take place after. Before all that happens, we have a meeting with UTC and with DEEP, tentatively scheduled for August 21st at 7:30 p.m. They gave us some dates. We went back with that date, and just waiting to hear back from them to confirm. But I would invite all the members of the Board of Selectmen to attend.
What date is that?
On August 21st, and I'll confirm it once they've confirmed that works for everyone.
What time of day would that be?
7:30 p.m.
Okay.
And we propose just having it where we've been having our current meetings, which is at the Osborne House, 113 Scannick Road. They come out there to our meetings, so I don't think that'll be much of a problem. But I'll confirm that with everyone, so you have that.
Okay, good.
Once I hear back from them.
The more participation, the better off we are. Not only the board, but anybody who wants to sit in to get a better understanding. We're concerned about what might happen, and it's important, I think, that the residents, the voters, the citizens of East Windsor really understand the risks and the results that may come from what they're going to do.
So
Would it be better to have it here? Is there a lot of room there?
There's enough room. I think we were looking at the calendar, it's a Tuesday. I don't know if this room,
Probably, well, maybe we,
You know, then you
Tuesdays
get,
are bad for this room, I think.
Yeah.
We didn't have the calendar last night of our meetings, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
wondering if the room was.
no, nothing's written on the 21st here. Oh, okay.
Better here, it's more seating
you know, you get more people here from
Yeah.
Broadway that.
Put it on
that
YouTube.
impacts- Yeah, that will impact them, you know.
and it does have an impact. It does have an
Yeah.
impact. There's toxic materials in the center of town.
Yeah.
And a part of the plan is to leave those toxic materials in the center of town
It's not a good thing.
forever. So part of why we're here tonight is, in preparation for all these meetings that are happening, what we're really looking to get is a second opinion on this plan and about what they're proposing. Lynn Norton's going to go into the details of what we're talking about, but really it's an idea for us to get a little bit more information, a little bit more feedback from someone who is independent of this, who is not giving us information because they have a vested interest. United Technologies shares a lot of information with us, but they're the ones trying to save the money and have this project go through with the least amount of cost. So we just want to get a second opinion on kind of what we're looking at. So I'll let Len go through the
Okay.
details.
So, as Jessica said, it's, what they want to do is basically a simple remediation and leave some pretty seriously contaminated soil on site. We as a group don't feel as though that's in the best interest of our town. And we feel that if we're going to be talking to, having meetings with United Technologies and their consultant, we should have someone on our team that's prepared to back our side of the situation and understand where we're coming from. And I've talked to a couple different environmental consultants who don't believe that their plan would be in the best interest of the town of East Windsor. So what we did, as Jessica said, it's, you know, you go to your doctor, he gives you a diagnosis you don't like, so you go out and get a second opinion. So that's what we want to do. We want to get a second opinion. And to do it properly, I prepared a request for qualifications and proposals, which I believe you have a copy of. And we posted it on our town website. And we asked for a series of services that we feel are important to the group, and we went through this as a group, and a couple of different meetings actually, to determine what we would like this consultant to come up with. So the services would be, they need to attend at least 3 committee meetings. We want them to go to deep, review the consent order and related correspondence with modifications, because none of us have actually seen the consent order. We don't even know what it says, and we're not even sure how to get a hold of it. We want them to review the 2010 remedial action plan that DEEP approved. We want them to review the remedial action optimization plan, which is being proposed conceptually by UTC. We want them to research the monies that were bonded by DEEP.
Could you back up for 1 second?
Yeah.
Could you just repeat what you said, because I wasn't,
Are you on a page there?
Which one? Yeah, it's actually on
you said that there was
on
a,
page 3 of the request for proposals.
okay. Okay, this answers it.
Good?
Yep.
We also want to have our consultant do some research concerning the monies that were bonded by DEEP for the property. There were monies that were allocated. The state's putting in
3 point something.
something million dollars.
3.9?
3 point, whatever. It's like an orphan share because the Broadbrook company's gone, so DEEP, on behalf of the town, I guess, put in this 3 point something million dollars. Well, from what we understand, there's 1.2 million of it left. We'd like to know what happened to the 2 point whatever that's missing, and what their intent is for the 1.2 that's left. I mean, we believed that the intent was that it was to be used for the benefit of the town of East Windsor.
Yeah,
And we have no idea what it was used for. So we would like them to research that too.
okay.
They can go through the books, they can go down there, there's in the basement of Deep, there's all kinds of records and stuff, and all the environmental people are familiar with that.
And most of all, with the money that's left, if it is something that is kind of open as to what it can be used for, it may be something that we can use in conjunction with UTC to get that property made clean and more developable.
Yeah, good.
And review the cost benefit assessments of remedial alternatives, which is what Andy kind of hinted on here. I think we've resolved ourselves to the fact that it's never going to be an entirely clean site. There's probably going to be coal ash left, and there'll be a cap and what have you. But just the fact that they want to take these very volatile, nasty chemicals, dig them out of the ground over here, dig a hole or whatever, put them over here behind the church, and then bury them under a cover. You're digging them out of the ground, put them in a truck, take them away. We don't believe we're talking $1 million. We believe we're talking $100 or $200 or $200,000. It's small.
Yeah, did somebody say, right, they say it was like $150,000 to take it away?
That number has been kicked around.
Okay.
It's an estimate, but it's
Okay.
you know, 100, 200, you know,
It's 200. I mean,
Right.
this is not a lot of money
No.
to do this and to get it out of Broadbrook.
That's kind of our point.
That just seems silly that they would even play with this, that they would just go ahead and let's do it and get it out.
Wasn't it like 13 cubic yards? Is that the right measurement, or was it more than that?
No, it was not 13 cubic. It was
Well-
Keith, you remember the number, Keith?
1,300.
1,300.
Okay.
Thank you.
2 orders of magnitude off. My mistake.
Well, you had the 13.
I knew.
You had a few zeros.
I knew it was a cubic yard.
So then we wanted to define some acceptable final conditions of the site and give us some recommendations, and then we wanted them to provide a milestone schedule, which they did. You know, we asked for there's a schedule as to when the RFP process was, what we want for insurance. There's some general conditions, and the written proposal came to me and what have you. So that being said, we actually got 3 responses, and you have copies of the proposal sheets for those 3. The lowest proposal was for $3,480 by CMG Environmental Incorporated. They happen to be the company that I currently contract with to do all my environmental work at the town garage, my stormwater sampling around town. So they're already a vetted vendor in town. And they happen to be the lowest one, probably because they do work for us. The next lowest one was Beta Group at $8,250. And the highest one was Malone and McBroom at $17,860. So we were lucky, we got 3. Sometimes you don't get that. So we're basically here looking to for the board to come up with go with our recommendation to use CMG Environmental to do this work for us.
When you see that there is such a huge variance between them, it's 3,800, is that what you said?
Well, say 3,500
3,500
and 8,200.
8,200 now, and the other one was 17,000.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, did you ever check back with the one that not the one you're recommending, but the other 2? I have these bids. Why would yours be 17,000 and why would this one be 3,500? Are we missing
Did you
anything?
do that under an open competitive bid process?
Well, it was really a request for proposals, but when I first talked to my consultant and said, I'm going to put this out for a proposal, whatever, I said, I'd like you to bid it, it'll be on the website. And, you know, I kind of got the impression that you can spend, you know, 2 days reviewing the records, or you could spend 2 weeks reviewing the records. You don't need to read every sentence of every line. And from what I gather from our consultant, it's that. And I think, honestly, part of it has to do with the fact that they currently contract with us, and we pay them a fair amount of money every year to work for us. And I'm thinking they probably gave us a deal here because they already work for us. But I'm confident that they'll do a complete and thorough job. I mean, they always do with everything they do for me, and there's, you know, Deep never has any issues with anything that they submit between the sampling and reporting and stuff, so, I mean, that...
Okay.
To what end will they do a complete and thorough job? You know, what's the purpose of this? What's the end hope?
Well...
Go ahead, and I'll elaborate in a minute.
No, elaborate.
Well, so they come back and they say the proposal that was put forward by UTC and to Deep is completely in the town's best interests. Great. They come back and they say the proposal put forward by UTC to Deep is totally against what would be in the best interest of the town. Then what opportunity do we have to effectuate anything? This isn't public property. It's privately held. It's a state jurisdictional matter.
We're hoping, quite frankly, that United Technologies, and maybe Deep a little bit too, but United Technologies, as I said, we don't believe we're going to get a totally clean site, but we think they can do better. And we're hoping that when we come in, just the fact that we're not sitting back going, yeah, we're hiring our own professionals to review what they're doing.
And so what's our remedy? Is it litigation? Is it?
It can be.
So we're going to bring suit against UTC?
Maybe, we're hoping not to. We're hoping that if we have these meetings, I mean, we're having a meeting in August 21st. I mean, we may have a series of meetings. We may be sitting in a room like this with the Board of Selectmen, UTC, Deep, our little group, and we may be doing a little negotiating, saying, come on, people, you know, you want to do this, you want us to, I mean, we can bring a suit. You want us to bring a lawsuit, fine. You want United Technologies plastered all over the Journal-Inquirer, they're picking on poor little East Windsor?
Yeah,
We're hoping that, I would aim for the New York Times.
Well, whatever. You know?
Company like UTC, they don't care at all about the JI.
You get my point.
And my point, though, is
we're hoping, honestly, that for a fairly small amount of money, you know, less than $4,000, we can maybe put a little pressure on them to see things our way and throw a bone this way and do a little more.
But what is the little more?
We're pretty, to truck the chromium and the really bad material, they're digging it up anyhow, just take it off site. Don't make that a consolidation, basically, not nuclear, but hazardous waste dump on a piece of property in the center of the rock.
So our recourse again, though, is litigation in the hopes that either saber rattling or full-on going at them would affect some sort of a slightly better outcome.
I think I'd like to add to that. Litigation would be one of the options.
That's what I'm getting at. Where are the other ones?
Well, and I think another option is somewhere between. If we don't put this money, authorize the spending of this money to get this information, then we'll have a harder time convincing United Technologies to do anything that would cost them a little more money, like taking the volatile chemicals off the property site. By getting this information, we can talk on their level. And by having that ability, a lot of different outcomes can occur. And I think the United Technologies, being a company that in a sense doesn't want bad press, but as also I've seen and worked with Bill Penn, who was in charge of this UTAS, United Technologies Aerospace, and he wants to clean this up in get it off of United Technologies' back, so to speak, or get out of this business of maintaining it, that it's cost him like over $2 million so far. But he wants to do it in an amicable way. He's trying to do it the best way he can. And he's come to the point, I would say, 3 or 4 months ago, where he thought that he could just slide it through. He could say, Deep had already invested like $2 million and had $1 million left. And he thought, well, get Deep to approve it, and we'll just cap it and get out. Well, now with this committee, and he's now coming, and they're starting to talk to us. So we have the opportunity to really negotiate, and there's a good chance that we don't have to go to litigation. It's a good chance we can resolve the whole thing right now. But if we don't make an effort like this, get the details, we're in a much more vulnerable position and probably won't be able to succeed in what we're trying to do. So. You're right, litigation is one option, but there's a whole range of options between, and this will allow us to explore those options.
I mean, currently there's 6 of us, I think, however many in the group that sit there, and we can say that's really bad stuff. And, you really should do this, you really should do that, but none of us has the background in that to actually talk the same language as their environmental consultant. And they have been showing up at every meeting now between UTC or ACOM or both.
I actually find that to be insulting as well, because we've been asking for 3 years for them to come.
I don't know what happened.
They have refused to come.
I don't know what happened, but maybe
refused.
because we've finally shown serious interest, they've decided to sit there. And I got to be honest with you. And
I don't believe they have shown serious interest.
There's other committee members here. The mood in the meetings has changed from meeting 1 to a week ago. It got rather contentious at times, and kind of
they refuse to deal with the governing board of the town in public. That is I believe they're singing a happy song and dance at a place where they can check a box. And then say that they've been talking to the town, when for 3 years they have been asked repeatedly, and the answer has been, we'll be there in 2 to 3 months. And they absolutely steadfastly refuse to show up and sit in that seat.
All I can say is I think...
Excuse me, I want to say that I've been the selectman here for 2.5 years. So I guess on that 2.5-year run, I was a part of that.
But I kept a tally of how many times we asked them to come.
That's fine. I know you did. I know it's a joke. People laughed when you said,
yeah,
for once, but this is real now. If we don't do anything in 3 or 4 months, we're going to get a capped thing out there. This isn't going to go on for another 20 years. But let me say that when I took over, I didn't know this Broadbrook problem existed. And finally, I got the clue and started doing. We went through it. We actually toured that building, and boy, there's mold in that building, and boy, I had a headache when I came out of that building. But now, just as Lenny's saying, now we started to talk to them, and that William Penn, in the last year or 2, started to talk to us, and that's when we learned, we started to learn about Maurice Hamill and the DEP, and we went down there and talked with them. And unfortunately, something's happened to Maurice. He's been taken out of it at that last minute. So the people in Deep don't really know what's going on. But I'm glad to hear that a dialogue is taking place. And I think results can happen. And the can's not going to get kicked down the road. That either is going to have a toxic waste dump in the middle of Broadbrook.
We can't have that.
Well, but that's what we're going to get unless we do
Positively
something.
can't have that in Broadway.
But it's gone through Deep. Deep has said, sure, you can do it. And you're meeting our regulations. But now there's, as Jessica said, there's, what did you call it? A section 106, which that's the Federal Environmental Protection Agency saying you've got to have, because of this building that's on the National Register, you've got to go through some procedure, and I don't know what the details, and so it's forcing them to make it more public. And when they first talked about the one condition of Deep is that they have a public hearing, and what they were going to do is put up booths and the public would be allowed to come in and talk to people in the various booths. That wasn't going to get our point across at all, but now maybe even that's changing a little. So, and they pushed off the public hearing for 3 months, which is good, because they were going to do it in a month. So things are changing a little bit. Maybe we won't, maybe things won't change, but.
I mean, they could be blowing smoke, I suppose, but it's the meetings that they show up at, their attitude seems to have changed, in my opinion. I mean, it got a little loud when they first started coming, and now we're like talking. So,
And what do those conversations entail?
we just keep impressing upon them the fact that we don't feel as though what they're doing is enough. We don't feel as though it's adequate. We feel as, our position is, if you're going to go to the trouble to dig the material up out of over here, you're going to take it out of the ground here, and then you're going to dig a hole and put it over here and bury it. Well, you're taking it out of the ground here. Why don't you just put it in a truck and take it away? Why are you putting it back on the property? And we don't believe. We've heard $150,000, $200,000 is probably the 1,300 yards, and I mean that's probably approximations here and there. But I mean we're not talking $1 million. We're talking a couple $100,000. We're not talking big dollars for a corporation like UTC. And we think that being good neighbors, and if they want to, who really is going to go into that? I believe that no one would go into, if they do the plan that they're proposing, that's going to sit like that forever. You're never going to make a park out of it. Who's going to go down there? Are you going to bring your kids down there and sit in the park when you know you got that crap under the ground? No, you're not going to go down there. Is a developer going to want to go in there and do anything with that? They're going to have to, once they cap that, they're going to have to spend so much money, you get so many, they're going to have so many regulations to go through to be able to dig. You can do it, but it's going to cost you a ton of money to dig through the cap. You're going to remediate things as you're doing it.
And those caps aren't permanent. You know, I talked with somebody at Environmental Services, and a brass company in Waterbury, they're going to build houses up because they got rid of the plant and everything. And then after they started, they found all that stuff, and they put that impermeable cap on top of it, but they have to go there periodically to take the weeds and stuff out of it because it grows up through it.
Yes, trees and brush growth.
That's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, and that's no good for Proverb.
Well, that's our point.
Yeah.
We don't believe that what they're doing is in the best interest of our town, and we think that we can get a little bit more out of them.
I think one thing that the committee's been able to do is been able to bring focus to what we would like to have done. I think in the past, there have been general words made, but our position has been firm for more than 2 or 3 months. The committee was formed, I think, 6 months ago. I think since in the last 5 months that we have formed a position, and that position has been solid ever since. And each time we talk to them, I think that they are more willing to listen to what we have to say. In the last meeting I sat in on, Bill Penn actually agreed to take some action items like find out what the cost would be, the difference in cost would be between digging it up and placing it on site in a consolidation pile as opposed to taking it off site. And even that amount of movement, I think, shows that they have been listening, or beginning to listen.
And with also, just want to add, some of the information that we're looking for in here, knowing what's in that original consent order, knowing where the dollars have gone. I mean, the state is involved, there's state money involved, DEEP is involved. We don't know what else we're going to learn that could possibly give us leverage in another area. We don't know what we don't know until we find out. And at every step of this process, we have learned something new. We learned about the consolidation area. We learned that there's a plume of toxic material in the water underneath that land, which is very near to the aquifer, which no one could clearly answer for us how close to the aquifer it was. And that was from DEEP, who was there saying, well, on the map, it's kind of blurry because the pixels kind of go. Every step of the process, we learn more.
Have we ever talked with the Connecticut Water Company? with, you know, regarding the wells.
But DEP
Yeah.
said they sample that, and they do keep a record of what the contamination level is in the public water source.
But I guess my point is that with the wells that the water company has right down here on Mill Street, that, you know, once you move it and it starts to move itself, then what are they gonna think? You know, before you, once it's in there, you don't get it out.
Which is what we said.
You know,
What's gonna,
Yeah.
what does that mean, that there's a plume of toxic
Yeah.
material in the water underneath this land? And their answer was, well, we're gonna dig up that toxic and put it over here, so it doesn't continue to like,
So it's maybe not a bad idea to talk to somebody at a high level in the water company.
Yeah, they might
This is-
not have that publicized either, that
Yeah.
there's toxic waste
Yeah.
right near their water source.
Yeah, that they might help with some of this. They might, I don't know.
as
They
people
got a
who
big
drink the
risk
water,
there.
I think we all wanna know that.
Yeah, they got a big risk there.
It's not, it's no joke, it's very real, it's very toxic stuff. It's in the ground, we know it's there, there's a fence around it for a reason. We need more information to give us more leverage, to give us that data. And I don't feel like it will be a fool's errand where we get something back that says, no, this plan is fine. Because we tried to talk to some other people just to get some general idea, and they have already stated it's not, based on appearances, based on what they just look at, it doesn't look like it's something that's in the best interest of the town. So that's what we're calling.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for. It's a little help.
Okay, I would move to approve spending $3,480 to hire CMG Environmental Incorporated to examine the, to work for the remediation committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
So, under what authority was the RFQ posted?
I'm sorry.
So, I think, I have a overall problem with this group, and I think you're exceeding the mandate. You know, the charge that's recorded in the minutes is that the committee is supposed to work with the Board of Selectmen to resolve and determine the future of the Broadbrook Mill site. There's negotiations happening with UTC that have been brought up at previous meetings that we're not a part of. There is now a request for services that was posted without us ever seeing it before it went out. That's exceeding what that mandate is. This is getting away. This is government gone awry.
Hey, disband us, we'll have something else to do on Wednesday nights, that's fine. We all show up there on Wednesday nights, twice a month.
I don't begrudge at all the intentions of
Really?
the
I could
participants.
do other things on Wednesday nights.
I do think that there is some overreach here that is beyond what the intention was.
Well, thank you, Jason. Do you have anybody else want to contribute to this discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve spending $3,480 to hire CMG Environmental Incorporated to work for the Broadbrook Mill Site Remediation Committee, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, 10D, discussion of soccer field bathrooms.
I asked to put this on the agenda. I recognize that the bathroom funding is a done deal, but I'd just like to discuss what happened, because I'm concerned about it. I'd like to get my thoughts out, because I think we could have done better. I'm concerned about the process. we are going to spend a lot of money, and we really didn't get a lot of backup information on what this project is, how it was being handled, and I'm really concerned about that. I did not get a list, and nobody on the board, I think, got a list with dollars on it that define the bathroom building cost. That paperwork was handed out by Joe at the meeting. What I had before that was just a listing with no cost on it. That's the wrong thing to do to the board. We're expected to act in the best interest of the voters in town, and that's what I want to do. In order to do that, I've got to have information I can look at, and I've got to have time to talk to people who put the proposal together, and that didn't happen. We should be better than that. There should be more cooperation between government boards so that kind of thing doesn't happen again. It was a wrong process. Just as a comparison, the University of Connecticut has built a really special kind of engineering and science building. It was very expensive. It was $92.5 million. It's a large building. And the cost of that building goes out at $804 a square foot. Our bathroom, for its size, and I had a conversation with Joe and Lynn on Tuesday, but at the size that was shown in the handout, the bathroom costs out at $952 a square foot. Now, Joe pointed out that that was a typical building, and the building that we have, if he's going to eventually get designed, he and Lynn, will probably be larger than 14 by 15, which is what my cost numbers are based on. But be what as it may, the two buildings are dramatically different in sophistication and in construction. The University of Connecticut's building has high security. It has sophisticated scientific laboratories. It has computer databases that are in total can operate as individual databases. It has eyeball sensing security for laboratories that have sensitive material going on in it. They had to tear down a big warehouse and reroute all the utilities, so it was a very sophisticated project. And that thing cost out at just north of $800 a square foot, where ours is over $900 a square foot. And if Joe's right, and you can, and the building gets larger, it may come down. It'll come down some, but it's still going to be approaching the same numbers. And it's very, very sophisticated, very, very fancy University of Connecticut Science, Engineering and Science building. I think that there should have been more discussion. The Board of Selectmen offered some alternatives that should have been further investigated. We should have tabled this thing, this particular project, until all that was completed, and that did not happen. And I think that because of that, it is a wrong process, and that we should look at how we do things like this in the future. As I said, I recognize that the boat's already sailed on this particular project, and I'm sure that Lynn and Joe are going to do their very best to keep the cost down. They just do that kind of thing. In our conversation on Tuesday, Lynn was saying that we're looking at the possibility of bringing concrete up higher and making the top of it sheet metal, which may reduce the cost of it. he also pointed out, and in the documentation that Joe handed out, it pointed out that he had a 15% contingency in the numbers that, the $200,000. But all of that being true, the cost of a bathroom and hot dog hamburger sales area should not approach a sophisticated science and engineering building. It just shouldn't. And what I'd like to do is to set up a dialogue with the Board of Finance to find out how we don't get bear trapped again. Because I think I got bear trapped. I had no way of arguing whether this was good or bad, and and we should have found a way of tabling that thing and taking another look at it to see if it could be done in some less expensive manner. I just wanted to get my thoughts out on that.
Okay.
But we did have an opportunity to do that. I mean, we all voted for it, and if we weren't comfortable with it, should not have voted for it.
How would I have stopped it? That's my problem.
You cast a no vote.
I did in the town meeting cast a no vote.
But when you're talking about the additional information and the, whatever your cost comparisons are there and the alternatives that were available, that was after we had voted on it. So if there were questions, it's incumbent upon the decision makers to make a fully informed decision.
And I agree with that. I do. And that was my error. It really was my error.
But it's not the Board of Finance's obligation to adjust the process.
I guess my point is that there should have been a more open process where information was available to me so I could make a more informed decision. And I didn't do that.
I think,
You also didn't ask.
okay, if I could say something?
Yeah.
I think you're both right in a sense. I'm probably as much as fault as anybody. There definitely has been a lack of communication between the Board of Finance, in my opinion, between the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. It's been, in my opinion, for quite a while. What I'm doing now is I'm actually going and sitting at every Board of Finance meeting and seeing what communication needs to be done, and hopefully I'll bring it here too, and vice versa, so I can facilitate that communication. But I think it's incumbent on both, in the individuals on both committees, to try to make an effort to exchange information and tell them their needs or what they're going to do. I know I think we've got to prepare ahead. For example, what I talked about last night at the Board of Finance meeting, and I asked them, what are we going to do when the casino comes in and asks for a building permit and gives us the plans, the architectural plans, the detailed plans for a $300 million building? How are we going to pay for that? Well, it's not in our current budget, that the cost to pay for analyzing those plans. How are we going to do it? And we began a discussion about it. We didn't answer the question, but now Rand Stanley is going to go to the Board of Finance's next meeting, which is, I believe, August 15th, and tell them what he has done. And one of the probably at the beginning of August, we're going to put out an RFP for consulting firms to review that the technical plans, the architectural plans for the casino. He's already, Rand's been in contact with other towns where the casinos have been built in Massachusetts, and like there's one company called Four Leaf that seems to have experience doing just this thing. There's another thing called ICC, International Code Council, that might be available to do that. But we're going to try to line up some people to do it. And so we'll be ready, and in the Board of Finance will be ready. So we won't just come to them 3 days before and say, hey, we just got the building permit, you know, we have to approve this in a month. You've got to do something, and we're kind of preparing them for it. So I think, as I'm trying to say, that the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen have to communicate better and farther in advance, so we just have a chance to think about things a little more. And this was rather sudden when we decided to spend as much money as we did from the fund balance. But I went along with it because the reason I went along with it is I realized that, at least I believe, the way the charter is written now, the Board of Finance can approve supplementary appropriations. That's their job. If a town department needs more money, it's unexpected, they need a supplemental appropriation, they can go to the Board of Finance, and the Board of Finance can say, yeah, we approve that, and if it's, I guess, over $20,000, it has to go to a town meeting. That's what the Board of Finance can do, and what they did at our joint meeting was approve $800,000 worth of supplementary appropriation.
And we forwarded it to town meeting.
And
it's
we
not as though
forwarded
they
it to
acted
an
in a vacuum. They didn't. We voted for it too.
I was talking, Jason.
Just making sure the point's not lost.
Well, it's not lost, because the point I was trying to make, and I started my speech by saying the reason I voted to send this supplementary appropriation to the town meeting was that it also says in the charter, if you get 20 signatures, you can send something to a town meeting. So if we didn't send it to the town meeting, in my opinion, if somebody came back and there were plenty of people in the audience that were for this, all they needed was 20 signatures, and they could have done it without us. So I didn't see the point in making a stand over that, but maybe I was wrong. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much. Anything, what do you think, Jason?
When I cast a vote on any subject, I'm confident that I'm making an educated vote that's in the best interest of the community. And as you guys can see, I have no problem voting no. When I think something is half-baked, I vote no.
Good for you.
I think that's something that is incumbent on all of us.
I agree. Any further discussion on bathrooms? Okay. Moving along. Our next thing is the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Ta-da! So, what I wanted, the reason I put it on the agenda, and I apologize for not copying you in, that was an oversight. There's 5 people currently on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. Bob Leach, Dick Pippin, Kathy Simonelli, Adam Mahan, and Rand Stanley. What we're going to do, and I'm announcing at this meeting, we're looking for more members. We can have 6, we have to have 6 to 9 members on this committee. That's what the charter says. So we're going to call up those people I mentioned, and if they want to be on the committee again, we're going to reappoint them. There's also 4 more openings.
I don't think
Are your terms going?
I think our
Well,
terms
that, yeah.
for longer than a year.
Yeah, and that.
Because I remember looking
Yeah.
that up. I think that.
Well, I have it. Actually, I have the charter right here because I knew that was a question. Because I looked, and this is what it says in the charter. It's section 8.4 budget procedures, and it's section 8.4A, capital improvement budget. This is what it says. The Capital Improvement Advisory Committee annually, no later than August 1st, the Board of Selectmen shall appoint a Capital Improvement Planning Advisory Committee consisting of no fewer than 6 and no more than 9 members for the purposes of setting forth this section of the charter. So it says annually. We last year, appointed people for 4 years. That was a mistake. We made a mistake. We didn't follow the charter last year. So we're going to have to do it annually until...
So what takes precedence, though, the previous vote?
I'm saying there's no reason we're not reappointing you. We're going to reappoint you if you want to be on the committee. If you don't, you can get off the committee.
Well, get off the committee anytime you want anyway. Just, you know.
Past practice was it was a one-year term. It was actually a 6 months term. That's what it used to be. Every
That's
year,
fine, I just.
every year
yeah.
we were, but
I
I'm just
looked it
telling
up.
you, for all the years I was on it, every year I was reappointed.
I can see
That's
why.
fine.
Yeah.
I just knew that when I looked at it and read the minutes, I'd been elected there, or appointed for 4 years.
And you were right, and I said, what is this? You know, and it was a mistake in our office, actually, the selectman's office, because that's, I went and saw the town charter. I said, is this right? And she looked it up, and she said, well, it came from your office, you know. And actually, it's funny, if you go back and read the minutes, when we made that motion, there was a lot of debate over that thing, and we had to amend them. I think we might have taken two, it was a lot of confusion over that committee last year.
I don't want to.
So, anyway, that's what I have to say, that now we're opening it up to 4 more members, and we're going to call the 5 existing members. If they want to stay on it, they're fine.
So, if I can,
Sure.
the timing last year was especially difficult.
Yes.
Because we were not asked to be on the committee until after our decisions were supposed to be already made, pretty much.
Absolutely.
So as I said in the letter to you, it had been my intention, I had asked the office here what the charter said in terms of timing. So it had been my intention to reach out to people to start to schedule meetings
Yes.
earlier. But, so if you're gonna reappoint, I just would ask that you guys reappoint in a timely way, because I think we have
And it
to
will
start
be
doing that very soon.
August 2nd, our next meeting, we're going to appoint the 4 and reappoint you guys. But, yeah, last year it was delayed because we put a spending freeze on. We had a lot of problems with the state budget.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Thank you. Sorry. Apologize. Okay. Tax refunds. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the presented tax refunds in the amount of $2,283.69.
Second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the final thing on the agenda, at least 10, new business, is the tax exemptions. I'm going to pass this out. This is something I added to the agenda,
These are individual comments.
individual packets. One for pay.
Thank you.
There's actually some up there too. The reason I brought this up is that our assessor called to my attention that we have been giving tax exemptions to people that we hadn't made ordinances to do. Instead, we made a resolution. So, and that was made by the Board of Selectmen. I'm not sure exactly when. No, I think she's put it in here. And she towards the end, if you go towards the end of this package, there's some highlighted things in yellow. And the basic thing is the difference between a resolution and an ordinance. And basically it says an ordinance is a rule established by authority and permanent rule or of action. And this is on Blake's Law, 5th edition. Black's, it's my mistake. And It's a law, a statute. Its most common meaning in terms is used to designate enactments of a legislative body of a municipal corporation. An ordinance is the equivalent of a municipal statute passed by a city or council or equivalent body that governs the matters not already covered in federal and state law. It goes on. And then further down you see a resolution. And a resolution is a formal expression of an opinion or a will of an official body or public assembly adopted by vote. A legislature resolution such may be either simple, joint, or concurrent. And so a resolution is not really a law. It's an opinion. And our current assessor didn't grant these exemptions, but she would if there were ordinances. So, and the reason I brought it to your attention today, it takes time to pass an ordinance, and by the next meeting we should be well on our way. But if you go to the last page, in red there's 3 resolutions that were passed by the board but are not ordinances. And one is the municipal option to provide additional exemptions for veterans or spouses eligible for exemptions under section 12-81. And another one is a municipal option to allow exemptions applicable to assessed value of a motor vehicle specially equipped for disabled veterans eligible for exemption under, again, the section 1281 related to a disability. And the final one is municipal option to provide additional exemptions for blind persons eligible for exemption under section 1281. So one veteran called me up and said, hey, how come I didn't get his $1,000 assessment reduction? And that would amount to $34, and this is the reason. So I just want to make you aware of it. We're going to work on it. We're going to make ordinances, but we do have a problem with our tax collection right now for these specific exemptions.
How many items are there, do you know?
I don't know how many people, well, to qualify for any of these exemptions, you have to turn in their paperwork.
Right, I understand.
And I'm not sure how many people have turned in their paperwork, and it also says on the tax bill that an exemption is denied, but as far as I know, only one person has complained. But
we should still do it.
Oh, no question about it. Yeah.
So we need to codify as an ordinance the resolutions pertaining to veterans eligibility for tax exemption,
In the
blind
state,
folks,
yep,
and
2 veterans, 1 blind.
handicapped and servicing veterans.
Yeah. And the state already does give them exemptions in that area, but we have passed resolutions to give them a little more, give them an additional. For example, I think the veteran who called me, it was, let's see. I think it was just the additional exemptions, that probably the first one. And so like I said, it cost him $34, so no question about that.
The other ones that are noted in here are codified as ordinance.
Yes, yes. There's examples here of ones that are qualified. So just to show you what an ordinance looks like that would lead to tax exemption.
I wrote one of those.
I believe it.
Okay, so it'll be in the next.
Yeah, it'll be in the next. I just wanted to call it to your attention.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
Nope.
All right, so now, selectmen reports. Jason, you're up.
Oh, please. On July 8th, I attended the duck race and cardboard boat race held in the Scantic River, sponsored by the BMX Skate Park and the American Heritage River Commission. About 100 people or so participated on what was a beautiful summer day. One thing that jumped out at me that I'm particularly thankful for is that the folks who run these events go well out of their way to make them family-friendly and really kid-friendly events. I brought my 3-year-old nephew who had an absolute blast. Kept cheering on for his purple duck, which sank. It popped up, but it was down there for a little while.
Ducks do that.
On July 10th, I attended the Ice Cream with Abby event, sponsored by Abby's Helping Hands, which is a great local organization that is always fun to support, and that supports quite a bit of good things going on in and around our community. And then last night, the pension board met. During fiscal year 18, the pensions plan saw a return of 10.4%, exceeding our benchmark by 214 basis points, which is exceptional and speaks to the value of having an actively managed fund. We also held an active discussion explaining exactly why an active management approach is more beneficial than a more elementary approach of a pure index. The key to the strategy is diversification, which is a combination of equity investments, fixed assets, and cash, which protects against market volatility. For example, if we had been in a straight index strategy in 2009, the contents of the plan would have been decimated and cost the town untold millions of losses. Because of the diversification strategy, we weathered that storm and are on more sure fiscal footing because of it. As currently constituted, our benchmark consists of a 55% blend of the S&P index, a 5% EFA index, and a 45% Barclays index. So there's a decided and well thought out reason why it's a blended benchmark versus just a straight S&P index fund, and it really is to protect the plan and the plan participants over time.
Just out of curiosity, do you know what the return on the S&P index fund was for the same period? And you guys got a 10% return?
Well, the 10% was just for the last 12 months. So
for the last 12 months, do you know what the S&P
offhand, I don't. I know it was a really good year, but the counterpoint to that is in 2009 when the S&P cratered.
That's true.
At that point in time, we did not see those types of substantial losses. And that's where the fixed asset component is important, is to weather that storm against market volatility.
Absolutely.
So for example, if in 2009, when you saw that tremendous decline in the S&P, we still have obligations that we need to pay out. And when you're paying out against a loss, that's not something that you can recover when the market rebounds. So that blend of fixed and of equity and fixed assets is particularly important for the sustainability of a program like that.
That's true.
For example, I'm sure your retirement investments are not in just a blanket index. You have to be in equity and fixed assets.
S&P, I wouldn't. They have bond funds too and things like that. We do pay them $91,000 a year to actively manage this.
Mm-hmm. The plan pays it.
Yeah.
Not the town.
Our retirement.
The employees pay it.
Well, but the town is obligated to pay out the pension commitments it has, and that's paid from the money that we have, and
Yep.
that's we're losing $91,000 a year from that pension fund that we're going to pay out for this active management. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that we can look at that. We might be able to do better, maybe we can't. I don't know.
At the same time, we saw just a return on investment of more than $1.3 million, which is, if you're talking about a $26 million plan and $90,000 to administer, and actually Amy brought this up last night, we were paying pretty close to dollar for dollar, the same that she was paying in Canton with a much smaller plan and a much smaller fee.
And that's true. A much smaller fee for $20,000.
A much smaller plan. It was half the size.
That's true. You brought up that point, but for $20,000, you could probably diversify your funds, just like you said, with almost the same result. But that's a different discussion.
Well, and you're not going to get a 214-point gain over the benchmark either. If you get there's a value there.
Okay,
There will be a lengthy recording of that in the minutes.
okay. Anything more? Nope. Okay, Charlie?
Yeah, on July 3rd, Andy and I met with the chief of the Providence Fire Department and the former chief, Dave Lockwood, talk about, what are we going to do with, they have the district over there, do we combine them? We're trying to get some information, what their thoughts were about this, and Andy prepared a letter. Andy, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit? Okay, that's all correct.
In talking to Chief Art Perry and Dave Lockwood, their desire would be to be part of a fire district. They see it as being a method of satisfying what they need for funding easier than going through the town budgeting process. I guess they see that the difficulty will be in administering this new fire district. They believe it should be one and not two, because the Warehouse Point side of the town has more commercial property, and so therefore we'll get larger contributions from homeowners, non-residents. They believe that if it was made two fire districts, that the Broadbrook side would be forced, the burden would be forced onto the residential population as opposed to spreading it over the commercial and residential. They're open to that. They have pointed out, as they have oftentimes, that the function of the fire department's interfacing is very good. It's clean. They work very hard to work fires together, emergencies together, and they believe that if you had a single fire district, it would be necessary to have two fire chiefs, one on each side. That would be a very sticky thing if you tried to integrate it and create one fire chief with captains for each one of the classes. I raise a concern about the fact that if you go through the town budgeting process, there are checks and balances, and there really are no checks and balances like that in a fire district. But they pointed out, and it's true, that if the people in the Warehouse Point side are unhappy with the fact that they get taxed an extra 1.5% because of the fire district, that they have the ability to voice their opinion on that by going to the meeting where they discuss budget. That doesn't happen. We all four agreed that we would have to try to stir up more interest in the public if you're going to truly get control of the budget. They also had a concern about how a new fire commission would operate. The concern was that if you made it such that there were more people from the Warehouse Point side than the Broadbrook side, it might get influenced by what they thought was best for their side of town. And I proposed that that on an annual basis or some agreed to period, that the majority of the fire commission membership would shift from one side to the other, just to try to keep it fair and balanced. That's something you have to work at to decide and to create a situation where you can do that. Clearly, you'd want terms of more than 1 year, and I think you probably would want to have the balance of power change each year, just so that there is no disparity between one side and the other side of the town over a long period of time. We agreed that we would like to. We have already talked to a single fire district chief in Enfield. They have five fire districts. It works for them. Periodically, the chief said that they would, there is a move to consolidate in Enfield, but it kind of always goes away because what they have is working, and people don't want to get into a situation where they have something brand new that might not work. There's also an understanding that the Barkhamsted Fire Department is a little more like what we are here than Enfield. And so we have asked Amy O'Toole if she'd set up a meeting where members from the Warehouse Point, Broadbrook Fire Departments, as well as Charlie and I, could go meet with the people in Barkhamsted to find out how they did it and how it works, and to give us some clues as to what the best mechanism would be to move on and create a balanced fire taxing arrangement here in the town of East Windsor.
So right now, we're just gathering information, and we don't have a direction either way. I think going to Barkhamsted and talking with them there, one, I'd like to know, how did they had to have been separate at one time, and that what drove them to that direction, and how does it work today, being each one is operating independently with the chief and so forth, and you know, does that model work here, not work here? I don't know, but at least we'll get that background. And you know, the Warehouse Point people are invited, as well as Tommy O'Carey and the former chief. So we're trying to get that set up in the next couple of weeks.
That's great. Great research. And are you going to send me that paper?
Yeah, it's to you. I just want to have Charlie look at it.
Yeah, maybe I'll put it on the website too. That's good information.
Point of order.
Yes.
I think this discussion is great, but I really think this should be an agenda item. I mean, no one can vote on this, no discussion on this. This is a selectmen's report. This really should be an agenda item where the whole board could discuss it.
Well, I think we can discuss it, but you're
well,
right.
No, it says it's a selectmen's comments and reports.
That's true, but we seem to discuss those.
You've kind of gone away from that, and
well,
and it really should be noticed, I think. I mean, you're talking about two fire departments that don't have representation. I mean, I'm just making a point.
Okay, and Kathy kind of said the same thing.
Yeah.
And my arm was getting sore, Kathy.
Become a little habit. You got to let people know when you're going to talk about it.
All right, and okay.
I mean, I think it's a great discussion. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no, I understand what you said too, and I agree with you. And I'll say, in this discussion, Carrie, even though shouldn't, Simsbury has a single fire district for the whole town. So I'll see if I can reach out to them.
Okay.
I appreciate what you're doing, and we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay, good.
Okay. Steve?
I went down, I didn't actually stop in, but I went down to they had the toucher truck thing down at the police department. And I kind of thought it was put in the wrong place in town. It was kind of hidden in the back roads, kind of. Should have been right over at the Warehouse Point Fire Department where they usually hold the carnival. And they could have lined everything up, and I think a lot more people would have shown up. The people I saw there were basically the fire guys with the fire trucks. And basically just people who were there with their vehicles, you know? And so I didn't even bother bringing my thing down there. I didn't think it was worth the effort, you know? And then I went by the reservoir and I saw all those people. I've never seen so many people in that reservoir in my life.
We did not have enough parking, by the
And
way.
there probably wasn't enough water there for everybody to get into, you know? But, yeah, there was a lot of, I was wondering what was going on there, you know? But that was a freebie day.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that place was, it was unbelievable, the amount of people. I never seen it like that. But, that's it for me.
Andy, do you want to say more?
No, only one thing, Bob. Lori has been acting as the interface between the town and the resource center. And with her leaving, I think we should talk to Eric Moffett about having one of the members of the EDC become the interface. Someone like Bob Light, he's very interested in the website particularly, and he would certainly be a good person, but I really think it's something that the chairman of that commission should participate in, if not select.
Okay, thank you. I think that's a good idea.
When you talk about the research center, you're talking about CERT?
Yes.
I don't have any comments or reports. So I guess we'll move to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
How are you?
Yes, yes.
I know you're also under correspondence.
Maybe it's not appropriate. No, I could run it up. But
It's not asking you to.
I think it could be.
Second time's a charm.
Right now, my
How do you know Kelsey Turner?
Oh, yeah?
I've known her for a million years. She always has been.
Bob, can you turn these off?
They hiring?
Can I just make sure that I wasn't recorded in the minutes of being angry?
Oh, that's right, you guys just